Hi folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. I'm going to give you a report on something that happened to me. And I think this is really, it allows me to share things that I can share in a more meaningful way than some of the stories I hear from other people. But I was out fishing in one of my favorite bodies of water, and now that it's bass season, I could go after some of these big largemouth bass that I know are in some of these backwaters. So I'm out there, and I'd gone to Ollie's. They had a sale on Lucky Craft lures, and if you haven't heard of Lucky Craft is a Japanese company that makes some of the finest recreations. They look almost real in the water. They have wonderful actions, and they have finishes that almost look like the scales coming off from a fish. So I knew I had a good lure. However, and here is the crux of this report. This lure was about 4 or 5 inches long. It's a suspending jerkbait. And we've talked about this before. You cast it out, it'll go down to a certain depth. And then you jerk the rod. And when you jerk the rod, the bait will go from side to side like a wounded minnow. It can be very effective. However, this lure had 3 treble hooks on it. One at the very back, one at the front, and one in the middle. So by golly, you're going to hook a fish if they really take it. So I'm fishing it, and I'm casting and doing my thing. We're not catching fish. We'd been an hour, and we hadn't had a strike. And all of a sudden, my rod just doubles up, and I could feel it's like hooking bottom. I knew I had a big fish. And I bring it in, and we were fishing for northern pike. Even though it's bass season, this area that I was in had some really big northerns. And I thought I'd hooked a really big northern. We got it near the canoe, and I looked down, and I'm like, oh my God, Rust, that's a huge largemouth. And it was really huge. But that isn't my story. My story is, as I looked at its mouth, I could see that every single treble hook, all 3 of those hooks was hooked in it. I'm like, holy cow. Number 1, it's a huge bass, so it's going to have tons of power. Number 2, the only way I'm going to get those hooks out is to grab that bass somehow and try to do this. And I know because it's huge, when it shakes its head, no matter how strong my hand is, I risk having one of those hooks go in my hand. So the odyssey began. And I was very careful. I tried to put my hand up on the in part of its gills, not where its gills are, but the jaw before the gills, where I could hold it by the jaw in a place where I thought I would have the most strength. And so story ends is that I finally got the hooks out of this bass. I had a little pair of pliers that I carry. It's a lanyard around my neck, and I was able to slowly get each one out. But I ended up breaking one of the points on every single one of those trebles. All 3 of those hooks, I broke off one of the 3 treble points. So I damaged the lure. I got the hooks out. None of the hooks were in its vitals. They weren't in its gills, or they were in its jaw structure. And I was able to release the fish. But then I thought, okay, I escaped the big one. I escaped having a treble hook wedged in my hand and us trying to get it out and me being the victim instead of the bass. And I thought, do I want to go through this again? What if I get a great big northern? How am I going to get the hooks out of that? And so I took my Lucky Craft, a wonderful lure, and put it away and put something else on with a single hook. And I want you to think about it every time you go out and choose your lure. Do you want to go through the old treble hook thing? Do you want to risk you and the fish? Or do you want to use a single hook like I've been preaching and increase your odds that neither one of you will be really harmed? And until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.